Good evening, and welcome to Geeks Assembled. Tonight, we're going to do the sequel to the 1931 Frankenstein. This was released in 1935 and is called The Bride of Frankenstein. And let's see what Connor thinks of The Bride.
Thank you, Beef Dad. This film was great to start off with. I don't think it was as good as the original that we reviewed a couple of months back, but I think all in all it was a great film. Boris Karloff, I think he was far more subtle in this one. He brought a certain sort of, because obviously it was sort of a romantic sort of film where he had a bride by his side. There was sort of a subtlety to his character more so than there was in the original. So I think as a sequel, it was a great sequel. It was very funny, very witty, very, very funny actually in some places. And there was also sort of a underlining, I noticed an underlining sexuality sort of aspect to it as well, which was quite eye-opening, but also, again, very funny. It's a great cast, as is always with these sort of early horror films. It was defined by its cast. It was a great story. I personally loved it, so I think overall I will give it an 8 out of 10.
An 8 out of 10 from Connor. I should just have a piece of chocolate. It's my only weakness. I think we will go over to our resident DJ. Jason, what were your feelings on The Bride of Frankenstein?
I actually enjoyed this one. It was pretty funny, pretty great. Love the effects on this one. I mean, it's amazing how the effects were way back then, especially, I mean, having the little people, even like, just like a front of the guy itself. I was trying to figure out how the heck they did it way back then. I mean, just looking at that and the effects itself, I mean, it was just so amazing just watching this. I mean, my mind was so blown out of it. I mean, just seeing the explosions and stuff like that, and you seen the angry villagers. Definitely all the excitement between it and with the blind old guy. I mean, there was some good scenes between that with him like playing the musical, and just the monsters just like enjoying it. And he just later on goes in there wanting a friend and then wanting someone to be there. And it's definitely a great film itself. Really enjoyed it. I was not bored at all, and definitely enjoyed every bit of it and every scene of it. The explosions, the background, the music of it, the characters are definitely great. The acting of it. I mean, there's not even any single mess ups in this one, and definitely I really enjoyed this. Give us a 10 out of 10.
A 10 out of 10. Thank you for that, Jason. Right. I think we'll pop over to Hull. That's an interesting place to be. And with Mr. Lee Wilson, an interesting man to be with.
And everybody knows it. Watching this back now, you can see why these films are called classics. As you said, it's a sequel to Frankenstein, The Bride of Frankenstein. I personally think this is on par with the original, because after the first two, this one and the original, the films do sort of slightly take a dive. But this one and the original, they're just awesome films. Karloff again reprises the role as the monster, and the monster speaks. He only growled in the first one, but he speaks in this one, as good and stuff like that. And he wanted, and we find out that he wanted love. That's what he wanted, and this is why they created Pretorius, created the bride. What a brilliant character that was, an evil character. As Jason said, where he created these little people in the test tubes, that effect for the 1930s is, you watch it now, as Jason said, you wonder how they did that then. It's a very, very good effect. And you go back to the theatre where he makes the monsters at the operating theatres. It's all there again, the electrical sparks, the flame wheels from the first one. You know, it's just an awesome set. The sets are awesome. And also, these films have got a little bit of a charm to them because all the characters are speaking proper English or regional accents when it's supposed to be in a foreign land. So you get... I can't remember the name of the woman, the old busybody woman who, you know, discovers the monsters and she's screaming her head off and all like that. But she's talking in a sort of I don't know if it was a Yorkshire or Manchester accent. But that's the charm of these films. It's just awesome. And to me as well, Karloff. What can you say about Karloff? He created this monster. He's gone down in history. And I've said this before in the other cast of Frankenstein. You think of Frankenstein's monster, you automatically think of Karloff's creature. And if that's not something to be proud of in the movie industry, and this actor, I don't know what is. It's a 10 out of 10. It's as good as the first, for me personally. 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10 from Lee. And now to the bride herself. Susan, what are your feelings about the Bride of Frankenstein?
I really enjoy the whole aspect of the two evil characters. There were two evil characters in this film. One was the other scientist, Pretorius, and one was Frankenstein. The scientist, the monster, was not evil, had a lot of trouble because every time he turned around he was killing somebody. But I loved him nevertheless. I would marry that man, that monster, in a heartbeat. It would be a delight for my senses. I probably would swell with pride if I was elevated to this position high above everything else, because of science, and science must lead, and the hearts of people grow faint in the presence of my husband. Sorry. And my husband freaked me out. I must say, I did scream not once but twice in the beginning part of our relationship. I have nothing bad to say about the villagers, except for the fact that they were basically homewreckers for our home. And I would like to commend Mrs. Frankenstein for revealing how it is supposed to be done, and the blind man for giving my husband humanity and language and music. The Eternals, the greater things. I will celebrate this movie with a 10 out of 10, for it was devastatingly beautiful, atmospheric, and real to me. So, thank you, Beef Dad, for asking me to come down from the mountain and share with you.
So another 10 out of 10 from Susan, and it's lovely to see you again, dear. Now, to my way of thinking, the extraordinary thing is the cast were mostly English for this. Now, of course, James Whale himself, who directed, was an Englishman. He started off in the theatre in England. And apparently, every day at 4 o'clock, everything stopped for the cast to have tea. Valerie Hobson took over from May Clark as Elizabeth and did a lovely job. Nobody has mentioned the opening of the film, and the opening of the film was Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley, Lord Byron, and Shelley the poet sitting and talking in the Alps during a thunderstorm. And from that wonderful setting, you then head into basically Ingolstadt, which is where it was all originally set. Lee's mentioned the housekeeper, Minnie, played by Una O'Connor, who was hysterically funny, absolutely brilliant. Loved her to bits. The sad thing I found was right at the beginning of the film, the mother and father of Maria, the little girl who was drowned in the first film, were both killed by drowning by the creature again. So, the extraordinary thing in this is the amount of emotion that Karloff is allowed to show in his portrayal of the monster this time. There is sadness. There are actual tears on a couple of occasions. It's heartrending. You feel for the creature even more in this, I would say, than you did previously. The screaming of Elsa Lanchester at the end when she is introduced to her prospective husband. Elsa Lanchester remembered feeding the swans in Hyde Park, but if you got too close to them, they did this extraordinary scream, and that is what she based that final scream on, the sound that the swan makes. The music was just absolutely brilliant. Let me have a look and I can tell you who. Eventually, I'll be able to tell you who at the moment. But as in many operas and things like that, each character had their own particular piece of music that would introduce you to them. The Karl had his own piece of music. The bride had her own piece of music. Pretorius had his own piece of music. wonderful, and it signalled, even when you couldn't see them, it signalled that they were arriving. It was absolutely brilliantly done. The lighting and the sets were amazing. The forest set was extraordinary, and I know that because he was involved in design in England for the stage. The director himself actually had input on that. A wonderful cast of extraordinary characters. It pulled at the heartstrings. There were a few scary moments. It's got to be a solid gold 10 out of 10 for me. And now I shall throw the floor open for everybody to put in their 5 pennyworth. And while you do that, I'll have a gin. It's my only weakness.
Alex said the title of the film, The Bride of Frankenstein. As you say, Elsa Lanchester played Mary Shelley at the beginning, and she also played the bride at the end. But with the title of the film, The Bride of Frankenstein, the bride only appears, what was it, in the last 10 minutes of the film, at most? Which was, you know, for a film like that, the film is a build-up really to the last 10 minutes. And it's an emotional journey for the monster. And also it shows you who the monster in the film is, really. It's the people. They're the monsters. The villagers are the monsters. The scientists are the monsters. The monster just wants to fit in with everything. He wants to have a mate. He wants to just be happy. And as it's been said, the old blind man showed him these wonderful things in life, you know, wine, music, and back then smoking. But it's a joy to watch, and I just wish they would make films like that nowadays. It's just a simple, nice, classic horror film, told well, acted well, written well.
Yeah, got to go along with that. But the settings and the lighting was so atmospheric, and it just pulled you in. And Dwight Fry, who had originally played the Hunchback in the original film, was brought back, but as a different character. He played Carl, the murderer, who also helped Ernest Thesiger rob graves. And of course, one of the things about this is there was a scene that was cut out before they actually filmed because the censors wouldn't allow it. And what it was Dwight Fry actually murdered his aunt and uncle and blamed the murders on the monster. But that was cut out before they actually filmed, because when they sent the script off to be okayed by the Hollywood censors, that one was taken out, which is a shame. Also, you had E.E. Clive playing the Burgomaster again, and that was so funny. And the interaction between him and Minnie was just hysterical, because Minnie would see the monster and go screaming all over the place, and he'd say, "Well, no, the monster's dead. Don't be a foolish woman. She's dead. He's dead. Don't worry." And of course, later on, she said, "Well, because he's the Burgermeister, he thinks he's it." Yeah, and of course there was one little cameo in this, although it wasn't done as a cameo, and that was John Carradine turned up as one of the hunters that arrive at the blind man's cottage and see the monster. And John Carradine would go on to be a massive star in horror films. And I can't remember how many times he played Dracula. As I say, it was all blended together so perfectly. The acting, the lighting, the sets, the music. It was just extraordinarily together, and everything fitted together. It was just an absolute piece of magic. And thank God they've never tried to colour it.
Yeah, I agree. This needed to be in black and white because there was nothing more eerie than the images brought to the screen in stark contrast and beautiful, devastating harmony of images. It would have been ruined to be in color. And I would love to see the modern filmmakers attempt to make these kind of beautiful images in black and white, in the stark black and white contrast. You know, the images are gorgeous. Yep, I agree.
It will take I don't know, a very good and brave director to make movies like that now, and I don't think we've got any directors like that these days. Maybe Tim Burton would, I suppose, but there's not that many out there who would take that leap and grab a film and make something like this.
I would actually disagree with that. I would say maybe Guillermo del Toro could master something of a similar sort of. I think it's sort of.
I forgot about him. Yeah. Well, that's two names. They're out of Hollywood's, massive directors. That's not many. But, it's these films. You're never ever going to repeat the magic of these films, and thankfully, we have got these to treasure. There was, because there were so many films and TV shows what were lost over the years, what we'll never see again, and thankfully we've got these movies to sit down and show people, the other generations, your kids, your grandkids, all these classic movies, these superb actors, what have gone years and years ago, but they're still there on film, which is one good thing what's come out of all these movies. It's such a legacy.
Yeah. Of course, one of the sad things was Colin Clive, that played Frankenstein. He died about 4 years after the making of this film.
Oh.
Yeah. A very sad, troubled man.
Young.
Yeah. He was young when he died. But as I say, he was very sad and troubled, and he did enjoy a drink.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I decided to get this movie when they had it on DVDs. I was like looking at this one I was at stores. I was like, well, since we're going to do it as a review, I thought I'd get it. It's got some bonus features. She's alive, creating the Bride of Frankenstein, the Bride of Frankenstein archives, and future commentary with Scott McQueen and Theodore Treadle on it.
Cool. It's good when you do all this and they get people from back then to do all these documentaries, and I love watching those sort of things about these movies.
Well, Boris's daughter actually was on one of them, and she was saying how her father fought against the creature being given a voice because he thought that the creature was better mute. But he fought against having the creature having speech. But to my way of thinking, it worked absolutely perfectly. And his voice, that wonderful voice, worked brilliantly for the creature.
Mm. Well, the creature was learning, evolving, so its speech had to come at some point.
Even though the brain, as we found in the original, in the first movie, was abnormal.
Yeah, but the wonderful thing about the brain for the bride is it was grown.
Yes.
By Pretorius, which I think was extraordinary. But,
Pretorius.
Yeah.
My creator.
A wonderful evil character.
Absolutely brilliant, and providing most of the comedy as well. Absolutely excellent, and of course he ended eventually. He became a knight. He was given a knighthood for his services to the theatre and to movies. And I can't think of anybody who deserved it more. It was basically, it's a little piece of black and white magic, and it's one of the few. It certainly outstripped Frankenstein at the box office.
Yeah.
And so,
it was the much anticipated sequel back then.
Yeah. Yes, and a wonderful sequel too. The sequel worked.
Yeah. And one final word from me is, hopefully, at some point in the near future, we will do the black and white comedy tribute to these two Frankenstein movies. Hopefully, we will get around to doing Young Frankenstein. Talking about Mel Brooks and the wonderful Gene Wilder. So,
I'm from Luca.
Oh, yeah. We've got no horses. If Craig could put some horse soundtrack there. So hopefully in the not so distant future, we are going to do the comedy tribute to these classic movies, Young Frankenstein.
Right. Well, does anyone else have anything more to add? In that case, I will say thank you all for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed this. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. Definitely subscribe. The comments are always appreciated, and we do try to answer them if at all possible. If you would like to join us, we're on all bits of social media all over the place. Facebook,
Twitter,
Messenger.
Yeah.
You'll find us everywhere. And so, I close with Karloff's words. You go. We belong dead.